Welcome back, Maximum Octane. We are still here doing these broadcasts live from Puerto Rico and recording, and it's been a lot of fun here at our super conference. And I have a great guest for you today that I'm really excited about, Mr. Justin Rae. And you are the founder and the CEO of Cinch.
Yep.
So that name, we'll talk about that in a second
Yeah.
here. But you're all about marketing and using automation to make things go in your data, and so that gets a little scary for people. So want to
Yeah.
talk about the name Cinch and
Yeah. I mean, ironically, we started off, the company was named Sagacity, and that's spelled Sagacity. Most people want to call us Saga City. And we were like, we got to get a better name than this. And so we found the idea. Cinch came up with the idea we wanted to make using data a cinch. And that's really where the name came from. So here we are today. We're Cinch. We got a great brand around it, and we really love it. So
I love that. And I'm glad that you mentioned about it and didn't mind sharing, because sometimes people have names. We see a lot of businesses, we see them everywhere. And the names are like, what are they thinking? Or why would they make this
yeah,
so difficult? Or
they spell
how
it
can
so
you
weird.
search?
Yeah.
Yeah, clever spellings
Yep.
and things, and they're so married to it that they don't listen to any experts on marketing or anything else. And it doesn't matter how many customers come in and say, we couldn't find you, nobody knew how to spell
Yeah.
it, but they just dig in. So
Yeah.
what gave you the courage to say, you know what, this isn't working?
For me, it always just comes down to the data, right? Like what is really, and as we were trying to start the company and people are like, could not say the name right, as clever as it was, because sagacity comes from the word sage and the idea of being wise and intelligent and and we thought, hey, data makes you wise, it makes you intelligent when you have that ability. But in the end, nobody knew how to say it. So we're like, well, what else can we go with? And I can't remember the other five. We had four other names that we're like, okay, we're going to pick from these. And then we put that out on a poll to our friends and family and a few of our customers at the time. And Cinch won that poll, and we never looked back. So,
Okay, so you used a little bit of crowdsourcing
yeah.
to get feedback
Yep.
and all of that. Wonderful.
Yeah.
So let that be a lesson to everybody, that sometimes you have to give up the name and move on to something else. Sometimes you need to.
Yeah.
So automation, data, what does that mean for regular folk that have businesses? How can they use that? How does that all work?
Yeah. Well, I think everybody, some people want to get intimidated when they hear data and they hear, oh, big data, or I've got to use data, or, use the data in your company, right? And rightfully so. There's a lot that goes on, and being able to use it, there's a lot of processes. And so ultimately, our goal at Cinch when we set out was, how can we commoditize the use of data, right? How can we take what these really big businesses are doing and bring it down to where any business can be able to use that data? And so in the years that I've been in business doing consulting and helping other companies, we were trying. I was doing the same thing over and over again, and it was, how can we take some of these same processes and just put them to work in a way that we could apply it for everybody. And so that's when my friend Jared Rich and I set out to. He was doing something similar in the medical or the healthcare consulting space, and so we set out to see if we could change the world in that aspect, and built Cinch. The first thing that we do, like in our process in trying to do that, and really in any process when you're working with data, is really understand what data you have, and then how do you clean it? Because oftentimes you have duplicates, and, when you're talking about customer data especially, you have mismatched information across that, and how do you just really clean all of that up? And so that's one of the things that we do in Cinch right off the bat, is bring in that data and help clean it. And whether you're using Cinch or using something else, having clean data is the first place to really get started.
I have seen so many spreadsheets over my years of being in the business world, 15 variations on a name. Like I never knew how many different ways you could spell Lou because somebody's in a hurry.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like something even like Lou Smith. It's crazy how people will spell it or guess to spell it, and it's all the same addresses or a similar
Yeah.
variation on the address. And it's like, apparently this is the same person, and somehow we just keep. And we see that a lot in our industry. Sometimes if service advisors are in a hurry, they aren't really actively listening. They type in a name and they think, oh, nothing comes up, they must be a new customer, they start a new
Yep.
record, and it's just a vicious cycle of doing that, right? And what a waste of time for everybody. And then you
Yeah.
got marketing pieces going out to 5 times to the same house. It happens
Yep.
at my house as well. I get from different. My name is legally Kim, but for some reason everyone thinks it's Kimberly, and they insist on, even the banks, they'll say, no, we need your legal name, and I'm like, that is my legal name. They're like, no, your whole name, and I'm like, that is my whole name. But so I get all kinds of variations on Kimberly, and and then I'm like, so I have like 5 of the same things because they spell it all different.
Well, and if they sent mail, right, that's a pretty expensive.
Yeah.
If you get 5 postcards that are telling you, different things, the different names, like that can be pretty expensive for the outfit or the shop as they're working to get that marketing communication out. And so that is one of our real high values that we deliver right off the bat, is just being able to, we call it customer matching, right? So you've got these 5 customers in here, Lou spelled this way, Kim and Kimberly, and they all the same address, but we have a process that goes through using machine learning to help better understand who the customer is and how to respond, like how valuable they are, right? Because if they are, in the example you said, somebody comes in, they create a new customer record. Well, that new customer record now in your shop management system shows as you've got these 2 customers, right? And they might even have the same vehicle, right? Same license plate, same VIN, whatever it might be. And within Cinch, we're identifying all of that and putting it together so that when you do send out your marketing, you're going to eliminate sending 5, the same Lou 5 postcards or the same Kim. Right?
Well, and the problem with that too, and thankfully some of the point of sale systems can tell a duplicate of a VIN, but not all of them still, or a duplicate license plate, but not all of them do it because people sell cars, and so they don't want it to trigger, having a VIN because it's somebody new. But when I get those things, duplicates, that tells me that somebody didn't listen to me one of the times I was in, because something is not spelled correctly, or my address, and that they don't care. So it's not something that I feel like somebody sent to me with intent. I know right away it's just a blanket free-for-all kitchen sink thing, because I get all the different ones. And then the other thing is, when they don't spell it correctly, you lose that history. And so hopefully our service advisors, or whatever industry anybody's in, is they're taking good notes on their customers. They're logging them in a system. Their kid loves the Yankees, or they're in the military, or they're graduating from college, and those things. And when you lose that history, that's gone. And so you're treating a longtime customer sometimes like a brand new one, because you don't have it.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I hadn't necessarily thought of yet.
See, look at that. It's every day we learn
every
something.
Every day. That's a great perspective. And
it's crazy. So with data, and is it data? I always say data. Does it matter? Is it just where you live? This
might be the nerd in me coming out, but data is what I talk about when I'm using it. Data is the character in Star Trek. So that's how I was always thought of it. But
okay. So data is when you're using it. Data is the Star Trek.
It's the Star Trek.
Because I say data all the time, and I hear people say data, and like, maybe it's just where I live. It didn't. I don't know if there's an official.
Yep.
Okay, so I think when people get scared when you hear data, they think of spreadsheets spewing out of a computer with decimals and numbers and all of that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I think too many people too often think of, right? And it's as simple as when you fill out that form with your name, or you're punching it into the shop management system. You're typing in the customer's information, trying to find the previous customer, or trying to find their previous records, and that's all just operated by the data, right? And being able to understand all the transaction data, all of that stuff, that we bring all of it into Cinch. So it can be all the line items on the invoice are data points, right? All the information on the customer, those notes, if they're a Yankee fan or whatever it might be, right? Those are all going to be data points, and each data point that we have, we collect it for a reason, right? And in the case you're using there with, their kids graduating from college, or, those are some things that you're using to allow people in the shop to understand how to engage with that customer, right? But some of those other data points are really valuable for letting a computer understand how to engage, or how to automate communication. So, case in point, one of the things that we do a really great job in automating is if a shop's doing oil changes and trying to encourage somebody to come back for an oil change, right? when are they going to be due? What oil did they get in their vehicle in their last oil change, and predicting when they're going to be due for their next one, right? So when you input the mileage on the vehicle into that into your shop management system, and when you're working on that transaction, that becomes a really valuable data point, right? If you put an extra 0 on there, while we're trying to use that data to now predict how many miles somebody's driving in a day, well, now we got somebody's driving across the country every other week, right? When we're trying to calculate that, because you throw an extra 0 on the end of the mileage, and so it's really important to try to get as good, clean data as you can.
It is important too, even on the consumer side, because I don't drive a lot because I work remotely.
Okay.
And when my sons were still at home and they played football and basketball and went to school and we drove, I probably put, I think, almost 100,000 miles a year on my vehicles. And now I don't think I put 10 or 12. And so it always would annoy me when I would get things from wherever to do with a vehicle. And it's like, oh, you have 30,000 miles. It's like, no, I have 70, or no, I have 2. Why don't you know? You have a record of when I come in. Why don't you know what my pattern is? And so again, then that tells me they don't know me. They don't know my vehicle. They're just sending out.
Yeah.
But if it was an actual mileage based on about where I was, then
Yep.
I would think that there was actually something to it.
Yeah. Yep. And that's one of the things that we really try to do in that predicting is looking at what that behavior is, right? So if you go from driving 100,000 miles in a year, right, which would be really insane, but if you those basketball
Crazy soccer tournament
all over the country, huh? But yeah, if you're going from driving a lot of miles and then you shrink down, right, you're going to have that transition time when it's got to catch up in the data, right? Because the data still has to be able to say, hey, oh, you know what, she used to drive 40 miles every single day, or maybe in this case, maybe 200 miles a day, and now she's driving 2 miles a day. And so then if we start to see that trend continue, we can start to flip how communications go towards okay, she's driving a whole lot less miles, and change when you're getting different communications for different service recommendations.
So there's a lot of data that comes in, and now I'm saying data instead of data.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out which I was saying now too.
I'm sorry. It's once I hear something and then it sticks in my head. So there's a lot of data that people have at their fingertips with their point of sale systems that they don't ever look at. I don't know if the reports scare them or the numbers or it. And so how are you able to help them pull out the information and say, like, here, look, this is why this is a valuable thing to be looking at?
Yeah, definitely. You can. There are certainly some operational reports inside of Cinch just because we have all of that data, but we do tend to count on the shop management or point of sale systems to be able to provide a lot of those reports, since they are generating that data. But since Cinch is generating a lot of the marketing and the communication data, we do have reports around that, helping to understand, hey, if you're using postcards, you send 100 postcards, you've got these 20 customers that came back from those 100 postcards, or based on the number of emails or text messages that you send out, your Google ads, Facebook ads, those different channels, we're able to help you understand how you're reaching out to customers, what percentage are returning back, and then how much they're spending on those transactions, right? So giving you a better idea of what your ROI is on your marketing communications.
You talked about a little bit when I've heard you speak to us about automation and automating everything. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So, I definitely love to do things as easy as I can in life, right? And go figure. I went and started a business. It's not the easiest thing to do, but
well, like most entrepreneurs, you get tired of working wherever. You think you can run things better. When you start your own business, you think you can hire whoever you want. You can fire all the lazy people. You could take as much time off as you want and pay yourself whatever you want, right?
Yeah, it's totally the dream.
Did that sound familiar?
Yeah. And then you end up working 16 hours, can't fire anybody. It becomes quite a hassle. But the true vision and hope was to be able to automate a lot of the processes that I was doing quite frequently, or that I would see that other people were doing. And so inside Cinch, what we basically built was, I like to compare it to Legos, a bunch of Legos that are code snippets or parts of software that are written, and you can piece them all together the way you want and build your own software to automate the processes you want. And that might sound really intimidating to a lot of people. And so what we did is, just like Lego, we said, hey, we've already pre-built these Legos. We put them together, and we can just deliver you the actual castle built together, or whatever. In our case, it might be a service reminder campaign, right? But if you want to tweak that or change it and make it your own, then it's very easy to do that inside of Cinch. You just pick each of the steps in the process that you want, and you're able to change that. And so it allows people to use that to automate not just their marketing communication, but we actually had a customer just reach out to me today and just finished reading an email that they want to put together a whole way to manage. They've got over 250 employees, and they want to be able to manage their internal communication with employees in an automated way inside of Cinch. And so we started showing them a couple of different ways that they can do that. And we've had a few customers do that. We've also had some customers that will automate hiring, and so you can put together your hiring process. And if somebody fills out a form online, an application online, if they meet these criteria, we're going to send this text to them right now with a link to get them on the schedule, so that if somebody fills that out at 2:00 in the morning, then they can get that link right now, and they can get on the schedule for the next day, maybe the next afternoon, wherever it might be. And so just being able to have something that, as we call it, low code, no code, ability to create what you need to be able to operate your business without needing to go hire a new headcount, hire a developer, whatever it might be, to help automate those processes.
As busy as the world is getting, and as quick as people demand to have responses and service, it's really important to have as many things as we can to automate, so that we're not jumping through hoops. Because I see more and more people, as customer service is declining and all of that, it just seems like everything's just going off the rails. And so if we could take back some of the time from doing the things for it. And I'll tell you, marketing is one of the things that always, it makes me crazy how most people in businesses do not market when they're busy, and they only market when they slow, and then they start scrambling because when they're slow, they're desperate, and they start putting out just stupid things and offers, and then it takes a while to get back up, and then they get busy, and then they stop again. And it doesn't matter how many times we talk to them, and even my friends, they'll ask me advice all the time about marketing. I tell them, and then they don't listen. And then they're like, oh my gosh, we're slow. We got to start doing it. And I'm like, you're going to do this the rest of your life, because you can't take your foot off of that. So do something where you can just make it happen, and where it's easy. You don't have to spend 20 hours putting together a marketing campaign, but it's so crucial that you do that. And even touching the customers and, appointment reminder, all of those things we have at our fingertips with a lot of the resources, even that they have now with the point of sale and other things. And it's like, why? It's like we buy all these things to make our life easier, and then we were like, oh no, we don't want to use that.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I mean, there's, as you know, the automotive industry has been very busy for the past couple of years, and hard to find talent, hard to keep up with everything that's going on. And we've talked to shops who are like, you know what, I don't want another new car. I don't want another car coming in my bay. I'm just so busy right now, right? And one of the things that I will often say in response to that is like, okay, right now you don't want another car, but you want to keep these customers in their business, right? If you actually reach out to your customer and they don't, if somebody needs a new timing belt, it's not like they need that new timing belt right now, right today. You can put them on the schedule for 3 weeks out from now. That's, you got the customers that do need those repairs and those things that are going to need to be done today. Like, you can start to work with your customers through that when you're busy, right? And I think most of us as customers, as consumers, are willing, and like when we have that place that we want, we want to feel like we're in touch with them, right? And we're willing to work. At least I think most of us are rational enough that we're willing to work with the people that we are having a business relationship with, right? And so I think that there's just, like you said, constantly keeping communication with your customer, whether you're at a point where you're like, I don't want anybody else coming back into the bay or not, like keeping that flow of communication is still really vital, right? With your customer base.
And if you're not doing it, somebody else is.
Yeah.
So especially the longer that the intervals are getting because of oil services and synthetic, and the car manufacturers giving free oil services for and all of that nonsense. The intervals are getting longer apart. People are driving less. There are a lot of things. And so you have to stay in touch with them, because if not, they do forget about you. And someone else, I swear to you, Someone else is sending postcards or something to your
Yeah.
people if you are not. So it's just silly not to do it.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't understand. It's so frustrating to me why we have this thing, and proper scheduling and making sure you have pre-ordered part. There's so many ways to be able to take in more. And all of these shops that are so busy, I guarantee you if you ask them what their productivity is, it's going to be like 50% or 60%. And then it's like, you're not busy now, and you're just inefficient. And
Yeah.
there's a huge difference. And so the more we can automate, the more we have more time, and the more things we can do, we can work on our efficiency. But it's just like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Why? And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I know I keep repeating myself and I'm rambling now, but this gets
No.
me so worked up. I always use like Ford or the big car places for an example. There wasn't a chip to be found in the trucks, and they didn't have one. People were ordering them. They were a year out. I have friends waited over a year to get a new truck. There wasn't a day ever that I've turned on my TV that Ford or Chevy or, somebody, Ram, was not advertising their truck. They didn't have any trucks to sell.
Yeah.
But they didn't say, oh, heck, we're just not going to advertise for a year because we're backed up. And then once we get those chips in, then we'll start putting stuff on TV.
That's a really good example. I love that.
It's there because when I'm ready to buy a new truck, I'm watching the commercials. I'm hearing Bob Seger. I'm watching them flip down with a little step on the back of the truck because I can't hop up in it as much anymore. So all these things are almost like subliminal going into my mind when I am ready to do something.
Yeah.
But we just don't think about that.
Yeah. And I mean, when it comes to especially automotive repair, you never know when you need a repair, right? And so when something does break and you need to think of somebody, well, who are you going to think about? Well, typically, if you've got that long-standing relationship, you're going to think about them, but you're also going to think about who was the last person to email you, who was the last person to send you a postcard, or maybe who was the last sent you a text, right? Who have you gone to in the past and you've opted in and you just got that message. And
here's the other thing, that as a consumer, when I get that one-off once a year or once whatever, oh, hey, we got an opening today. Do you want to bring your car in, or something, one of those things that they start doing? I can smell that a mile away. And I think to myself, I'm not dropping what I'm doing because you're desperate today because you didn't properly market. Now, I realize most people don't think like I do, but consumers are not stupid. They know. They can smell it when all of a sudden it's like, oh, we just, we had this cancellation or whatever. It's crazy. So just stay in touch with them always.
Yeah. One of the things that we recommend people doing in that situation is instead of sending it out more blanket as to your customers when you got a cancellation or you do have an empty bay, go ahead and go send it out to the people that are 3 weeks out on the schedule, right? See if you can move them up, because it creates that sense of, like you said, they recognize, they're not stupid. They recognize, hey, you know what, this is actually valuable to me because I'm now 3 weeks out. I'd rather get this done sooner. Oh, well, maybe they'd rather get it done.
And when you have somebody booked out 3 weeks, it's very plausible to call and say, hey, I got an opening. Do you want to bring it in sooner? And it doesn't sound desperate. Then it sounds like you're elevating the customer experience. I care about you. I know you wanted to get it done sooner. I have an opportunity, so let's do that.
Yeah.
And then it's so much nicer than these crazy fire sales that they put out when nobody's in there for the day. What are some of the things that you recommend business owners automate with data?
One would just be requesting online reviews. I think there's still too many shops and locations that will just, after they'll send out manually, have somebody text out, hey, leave us a review, right? And they're writing those up manually. Where
no, they just put a sticker on their counter.
Or they put
they hope that people do it.
Yeah, no, definitely. So one of the things that we do a post-transaction where just after the transaction comes in, we connect to that point of sale, the data comes in. As soon as we get it, we send a text message off to the customer and say, hey, thanks for coming in, visiting our shop today. Go ahead and leave us a review here, please, and then leave the link. We also add into that another little section that says, and if you'd like to opt into text message reminders, go ahead and reply start, right? And so then we can get in the text message world, what's called a double opt-in for the text messaging and building a legally compliant subscriber list. But additionally, you've now asked for that in the text message, you asked for the online review. And just by doing that, most of the shops will see up to 4 times more reviews being left than they typically do with what they were doing before.
I'm sure they do, because most service advisors, and they're very busy, but
Yeah.
it's just not enough. And I think people in general feel awkward asking, hey, can you give me a compliment? Because basically that's what you're asking for. And I think most people are kind of humble and were raised to not be bragging or, doing that. So it's like, hey, can you go write something nice about me? They're not. So having, again, that automated, then it happens. And it, like with any stats, if you don't ask, you're going to get 0.
Yeah.
So.
Or you're going to get mostly your negative. That's actually
ones.
A really interesting thing. We've had some customers ask, there's a phrase called review gating. Are you familiar with review gating? So basically what review gating might be is if you send a survey before or ask a text message question before, like how was your service, give us a 5 if it was good, right? If they give you a 5, then you send them to leave the review, right? So you're putting a gate on who you let through to the reviews.
Oh,
right?
I'm familiar with that practice. I didn't know it was called review gating. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah. So Google really hates review gating, but we'll get people that are often like really concerned about, hey, I want to make sure I'm only letting people that had a good experience leave me a review. And what's really interesting as we've gone through this is we've been able to find that most people are going to leave a 4 or 5 star review, right? That's really what most people want to do, like you said, is they have a good experience, they're going to leave that. But if you don't go ahead and ask for the review, you're going to get a lot of people that are coming in because they had the bad experience. They're leaving a more organic review, but they're leaving it because they had that poor experience.
But people are going to leave bad reviews whether you send a text and ask for them or not.
Exactly.
And that's, I think, important for people to understand.
Very important, right? You're going to definitely get those 1 and 2 stars whether you ask for it or not, right? There might be a few of them that you're going to get that you get just because you did ask. But
it's so few. At least in all the studies I've seen, it's so few.
Yeah.
That a request for review via text or anything triggers a bad one.
Yeah.
It's so slim, the number.
Yeah, I've actually seen within Cinch you have the ability when we send that text out to start a 2-way conversation with the customer at that point. And I've actually seen some really cool consumer interactions where the customer basically says, hey, you know what? I didn't have a good experience, so I don't want to go leave you a review right now, but let me tell you about my experience. And they text back that experience. And then being able to see then the conversation that can start up between a manager or just the owner, whoever it might be, with that customer, apologizing for the experience, really appreciating that they didn't go put it online. And then it takes this poor experience that might have been a 1 or a 2 star review that now turned into a really positive experience for the customer because they got to be heard and have that conversation with the shop owner.
This is just all exciting stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
So exciting.
No, it's really great. I mean, the day and age we live and the opportunities that we have, but there's a lot of opportunities for automation and ways to make it so it's not a pain when it comes to marketing. I think a lot of shops don't do marketing, right? They just don't do it because it's an extra thing. But when you're using a tool like Cinch, you have the ability to automate it.
Because a lot of them are relying on themselves and they keep thinking, I can do that, I can post on whatever. And I see that even with my friends with other businesses. And it's like, if you're truly an entrepreneur and you're running your business, you don't have time to do it.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be doing that. You should hire someone that does it.
Yeah.
Or you need to hire somebody else to be the CEO and then you can dabble in marketing all day.
Yeah.
But if you are not keeping up on all of the laws and all of the trends and all of the algorithms, and you're wasting your time doing all that stuff anyway. And
Yeah.
I don't know any small business owner that has time to follow all that stuff. Even the laws when it comes to texting now and opting in and opting out, and so many businesses are in violation. I get texts and I think you are so in violation of whatever. But I just delete them, and it's just, but because they don't know, and how could they?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine how many hours a day people at Cinch spend keeping up on all of those things.
We definitely have to keep people on our team that are up to speed on and not even just legislative regulations, right? But regulations that are put into place by carriers or that are put into place just generally by email servers for email reputation, right? And so those are all things that we want to be able to help our customers. Our customers have incredible email open rates, upwards of even 40%. Text
That's
message
huge.
compliance. It is, and that really a lot of things that we do in the data science to help predict email behavior and email engagement really help with that. But really just some pretty basic things that we do to help the customers keep email reputation really positive is what really drives getting into the inbox and not a promotion box or worst case scenario spam. And so, yeah, all of those things, there's a lot of things. And kind of like you said, if you can pick and choose, you can't really do it all. Like even if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to have that shop, but like it really takes a team. You know, you can't, if you can't be the guy turning the wrench and doing the service advisement and
the marketing and the
payroll, right?
Yeah,
Like I
shuttling the cars. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy.
Yep. You got to have a team. And so, you know, finding that person or the group that's going to be your team for marketing and what tools are they going to use. In the marketing world, we often, call that the MarTech stack. So your marketing technology stack or the tools you're using.
I like
So
that.
that's,
See, I love all these catchy phrases.
the MarTech stack. So, but yeah, that's basically what are you using, you know, to send your emails, your text message? What are all the software tools that are part of that? And then at Cinch, one of the things that we've also aimed to do in that is to reduce the number of tools that are required for your MarTech stack, right? And so you might have one thing for email, another thing for text message, and then you got that mail house that you really love sending postcards out from. Then you got an agency that's doing all of your Google and Facebook ads, right? Well, within Cinch, you can bring your email, your text, and your direct mail into one tool, and so we're coordinating that. So we can say, hey, if this email was sent, it was delivered, and it was never opened after 3 to 5 days. Now let's send a text message. And did they come back in? They didn't come back in. Now let's send a postcard, right? So we're not just saying, hey, let's send that postcard right off the bat, right? We can put some buffers on that. We can even say, hey, do they live within 2 miles of your store, and be able to send it. You can limit that based on that aspect. And then we worked really well with those agencies when it comes to using the digital ad audiences, Facebook and Google, and being able to, in that same campaign, we can say, hey, they got the email, it was delivered, let's go ahead and now push them over into a Facebook and Google ad. So whatever that message was, maybe it was an oil change reminder, maybe it was their timing belt, right? Whatever it might be. And now we're pushing them into that campaign, and the communication across all of these channels, it should be succinct, right? And that's, again, having a good company helping you, or an individual inside of the company that can do the marketing and help reduce the number of marketing tools that they're using.
That's perfect. So I swear to you, this isn't a commercial for Cinch, but he's so seamless at talking about it. But I just really wanted you to understand the things that you should be looking for when you're picking a partner. And certainly Cinch has that ability, and they have a special for us that I'll tell you about in a second. But be smart when you look for people, interview them, ask them what can they provide, and look at your tools, because as you just mentioned, I see so many people they'll have 5 or 6 different companies, and they overlap so much stuff. And then I'll ask about the Google reviews, and they're like, oh no, I think so-and-so's handling that. Well, what about the text reminders? No, I think so-and-so is doing. And then they don't even know, and you cannot track your return on investment.
Yeah.
With any company, if they're all overlapping and you're not sure who's doing what. And many times they work against each other.
Yeah.
With how it's doing it. So it's really important that you look at what do you need, and then when you search for a company, see how much of it that they can do, and then would you be able to eliminate other things. And you have to take that into consideration too with your budget. If I'm taking out X amount of these, then and having it all in one place, because sometimes I see all of you freak out. I'm not going to hire, ABC whatever, because I'm going to make up a crazy number, $5,000 a month, which nobody is. But if you looked at your stuff and got rid of, D, E, F, G, you'd save $6,000 a month. So you have to look at these things with intent. And this is so important because it's your image, it's your marketing, it's your branding, it's everything all together. So I really appreciate you being here with me and talking to me. And I'm sorry now we both don't know whether to say data or data.
Yeah.
I started out saying data and I talked myself into data, which I don't know why. So you have a special for our listeners, whoever's listening and watching on YouTube, and what would that be?
Yep. So anybody that signs up after listening, we will provide a $200 Visa gift card too.
Okay.
And we'll also go ahead and waive all of our implementation fees. So we typically have a $1,000 implementation fee, and we'll waive that.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining
Definitely.
me today.
Thanks for taking
And
the time.
everybody, stay safe, make good choices, stay inspired, and I will be back next week.